welcome to this episode of the Mama podcast. Today we are joined by the fabulous Shauna Levin from the Twins Trust. It's so lovely to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Shauna.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. So why don't we start by you introducing yourself and letting us know about your home life situation at the moment.
Sure. So yes, as you said, I'm Shauna Levin and I'm the Chief Executive of Twins Trust. Twins Trust is the UK organization that supports families with twins and multiples. And interestingly, we're one of the biggest organizations of our kind in the world. So we're really lucky here in the UK that families with twins and multiples have access to information, community, and bespoke support. We also support healthcare professionals in caring for multiples. I came to this role because I had twins in 2018. So my background is as a lawyer. I worked in a variety of other charities and nonprofit organizations, first as a lawyer and then as a manager, kind of getting more and more senior. And that was predominantly in the human rights and international development kind of space. So when I had twins in 2018, I took a bit of a break and wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. But when it did kind of come time, I was ready to go back to work. I thought, I'd like to do what I was doing before, but in a charity that was more kind of personally close to me, something I was really passionate about. And this role happened to come up at the same time, and that's how I came to Twins Trust. And it's been 3 years since I joined, so it's been great.
Wow. So you've got lots of different hats that you've worn in the past then. That's really interesting. So tell us about your twin story.
Yeah, so I had twins in 2018. I have boy-girl twins. They've just turned 6. It was definitely challenging at first. My husband and I, neither of us are from the UK. We've lived here for a long time now, but our families aren't here. So the question of support was, weighing heavily on our minds in the beginning. I had a very medically straightforward pregnancy. I was very lucky. And delivery as well. My twins were born by planned C-section at 37 weeks, which is pretty much perfect as far as twin deliveries go. It's at term and everything went according to plan. They were, healthy from the get-go, a little bit small. But I will say, even though the pregnancy was medically uncomplicated, it wasn't a particularly enjoyable experience. I had terrible sickness, terrible heartburn, terrible restless legs, terrible everything. So I think a lot of people in our community kind of question why they're not having this beautiful pregnancy experience that so many people have. And it's perfectly normal, I think, to just not enjoy your multiple pregnancy. So they were born. Everything was, again, relatively straightforward. We didn't get a lot of sleep. It was very exhausting. I went through lots of periods of anxiety and low mood and questioning myself, all of the things I think that are really common in our community. And I guess I just would want to reassure anybody going through that it is really normal, and you should just really make sure you're asking for help and taking care of yourself.
I think a lot of that is quite normal in any pregnancy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't have experience with a singleton pregnancy, so I'm just speaking from my own experience. But yes, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it sounds quite similar. But I guess that sort of anxiety and that worry of having to look after 2 or 3 or 4 must be increased, I guess, because obviously as parents we're quite anxious anyway. But when you know that you've got double trouble, that must be something to deal with, I guess.
I think, for most people, I would imagine, or for me at least, the anxiety started really early in the pregnancy because you are told this is a high-risk pregnancy, you're going to need a lot more monitoring. And again, I had a very simple and straightforward twin pregnancy. I had diamniotic dichorionic twins, so di twins, which are kind of typically the most straightforward twin pregnancies. They both have their own placenta and their own sac. The risk increases as you have more babies in one sac living off of one placenta. And so, but still, you're told it's high risk. You're at the hospital a lot more than any of your friends. You're having a lot more tests done. Your scans are taking a lot longer. You're given a lot more information. So, from the very beginning, you're thinking, gosh, and then of course you're also trying to learn about how to care for more than one baby, the challenges that bring, from the physical challenges to the financial challenges. So, yeah, I think the anxiety started pretty early in our journey. But and it didn't, as a parent, of course, you're always anxious. So
Definitely, definitely. So tell us a bit more about Twins Trust and exactly what you do to help and support parents.
so yeah, so we support a large percentage of the UK multiples community. So that's families with twins, families with triplets, families with higher order multiples. There aren't very many, but there are a few every year. And we offer access to information. So we're 45 years old. We have a lot of lived experience in the staff team and the trustee team, in our broader volunteer community, but we also have a lot of expertise in subjects from, pretty much everything from the beginning of pregnancy to well into the adolescent and adult years, on raising multiples. So we have lots and lots of information, and that's provided in different ways. So we've got a very thorough and in-depth website, which has not only, articles, but toolkits, checklists, kind of, really practical information. And we also run courses. So we have courses that start with early pregnancy and go through expecting twins. We have an expecting triplets course that's about to launch. That's really exciting. We have an antenatal, so more of your traditional kind of antenatal course, and those are in person or online. And then we have courses on, all of the post-pregnancy topics, that everybody grapples with: sleep, behavior, feeding, things like that. So yeah, lots and lots of opportunities to prepare yourself for your journey. We have also information about the kind of care you should be receiving. So healthcare checklists, and again, the care you should be getting changes depending on the kind of pregnancy you're having. So if you have monoamniotic, monochorionic twins, you have a different care pathway than if you have, any other combination of placentas and sacs, basically. And we have healthcare checklists for those, which you kind of keep with your medical notes. That's really useful, I think, especially now, care is stretched, and a lot of people do report to us that, they're not necessarily getting the care they expected to be getting. So we can help them with that. And the way they report it to us, we have a helpline. So we have a helpline that is available on the phone, over email, and soon on WhatsApp and text. So that's also really exciting. And we provide information and support on, again, like lots and lots of different topics. And then for families, we also have online communities. So our families really find it useful to connect with people in similar situations, whether that's, your kind of standard expectant parent, or a single parent family, or families going through any one of numerous different conditions that impact multiples. Those are really popular and useful. And we also do offer bespoke support for people in particularly difficult situations. So we have a crisis support service for families that are dealing with particularly hard situations. We also have a triplet support service. So that actually means that you get somebody to come to your home, help you kind of troubleshoot, teach you how to deal with the sort of challenges that your situation provides. And then we have a whole bereavement service on the other side. So we have peer-to-peer support and information and counseling for parents that are bereaved of one or more multiples. That's quite a lot. We also do things on
That
the
is a
healthcare
lot.
side, so I don't want to talk forever, but
That is, yeah, that sounds so helpful, especially to know what sort of care you should expect and when. That really helps parents feel more in control, isn't it, of the whole pregnancy? So that's amazing. That's brilliant. One of my questions was, what causes multiple pregnancies? How do you end up being pregnant with twins?
there's no one answer. Well, there's two types of twin pregnancies, and then of course there's triplet and quadruplet and other higher order multiple pregnancies. Twins can result from two eggs being fertilized separately and implanting separately. And those are your fraternal twins, your non-identical twins, your boy-girl twins. Sometimes they're same sex, but we always, have a giggle when people ask if, your boy-girl twins are identical. Um, and the other kind of twin is one egg that splits. And so there's lots of kind of different ways to describe these. And you can, for example, have I won't get into all of the medical complications, but most of the time it's chance. Of course, there are increases in the number of twin and higher order multiple pregnancies because of fertility treatments. So, probably maybe there's 30% more multiples now than there would have been kind of in the 70s before, assisted conception technology became what it is today. But it's really perfectly normal to have either kind of twin or triplet. It doesn't happen that often, particularly with triplets and higher order multiples. Usually higher order multiples are the result of some sort of fertility treatment, but not always. It's not, not 100% given. Um, so yeah, just chance usually.
Is there more chance for, say, families that have got it in the family if it's hereditary?
Yeah, so fraternal twins, so non-identical twins, twins that are conceived because two eggs ovulated and or fertilized and implanted are they've been said to run in families. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that, if you are a twin, you're going to have twins. And I don't think there's any predictable way of telling. It's not like it skips a generation. There's lots of rumors about it. But there is higher instance of having, just for shorthand, fraternal twins in families that have instances of fraternal twins. And also, if you have had a set of fraternal twins, you are more likely to have another set of fraternal twins. Identical twins are random. There's no way of predicting, when one egg is going to split, and there's no correlation between having a set of identical twins and having any more twins. It does happen. I know a few people that have had two sets of
Mm.
identical twins, but they're very, very rare.
So interesting, so interesting. So what are the complications associated with multiple pregnancies? What would parents need to be aware of?
I mean, there are a lot of potential complications. The most complicated pregnancies are when the babies are sharing either the placenta or the sac or both. The most common, they're not very common, but the most common complications we see are they involve the amount of kind of blood flow or nutrition not being equal between the babies. So there's a syndrome called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. There's another syndrome called TAPS, which is twin anemia polycythemia syndrome. And there's TRAPS, which is another kind of similar syndrome. We also see selected growth restriction. So that's when one baby is growing more than the other baby. And we're really lucky that today, there's been some great research done, some of which Twins Trust has supported, into how to treat these conditions, how to diagnose and how to treat these conditions. And nowadays, parents do have access to kind of in utero surgery in some instances where doctors can use laser technology to kind of readjust the vascular structure in utero, and it's improved kind of survival rates and the treatment of these conditions, but unfortunately, they're not always treatable. Um, Multiple parent or mums are more likely to have things like preeclampsia, um, other kind of typical pregnancy conditions as well. I think important to know they're also more likely to suffer from postnatal depression, postnatal anxiety. So I think it's just really important for our community to be aware that, to be on the lookout for those kinds of things and to know that they can start during pregnancy as well. So if you're feeling
Mhm.
unwell or if you have any concerns, do talk to your health professional or give us a call.
That's a really good point. We always associate that with sort of afterwards, don't we? Because it's postnatal depression, but that's a really good point about getting support sooner. What support is available? obviously you're there on the end of the line to speak to.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think if it's about one of the more specific conditions, obviously you want to make sure you know what symptoms and signs you might be looking for. And we have lists of those on our website. And again, they're in the healthcare pathways. So when you're having one of those higher risk pregnancies, your doctors and your midwives and your sonographers are looking for any indication that these issues might be coming up. And so you want to make sure you're going to your scans, that your scans are kind of being done properly and by somebody with some experience in multiples and in diagnosing these conditions where possible. So, for example, we always say we'd like to see multiples seen in a designated twin clinic, but in some of these more complicated pregnancies, I know units will see them in fetal medicine units and things like that. So I think as long as you're being seen by somebody with the appropriate level of knowledge, you're in good hands. So yeah, I mean, understanding your health journey is really important, and understanding what symptoms to look for. If you're talking about anxiety, depression, I really would recommend giving our helpline a call, because we can give you some more bespoke support, having spoken to you or texted with you or emailed you. Based on your specific circumstances, it might be that your anxiety is coming from circumstances, which we can help with. It might be that it's, kind of biological, in which case, we can make sure you're seeing the right professionals. So yeah, I mean, we really do try to kind of tailor it to the specific need, but our helpline's a great place to start.
Sounds fantastic. So you touched upon the scans and things there. What care can they expect? How will their antenatal appointments be different?
I mean, you'll have a lot more of them. Again, it really does depend on the kind of multiple pregnancy you've got. For triplet pregnancy, for example, you'll be seen, a lot more. Your standard kind of dichorionic, diamniotic pregnancy, you'll be seen quite a bit more. You probably won't be seen locally. I know a lot of people will see a midwife at their GP surgery or in the community. You'll almost definitely be seen in the unit, wherever you're planning on delivering in that facility. Um, your scans will take a lot longer. So it is definitely more of a burden in terms of time off work and things like that. And if you're concerned about that, you can give us a call. We can help, uh, you know, find the right advice for you if you're having trouble with your employer. Because, for example, in even your most sort of run-of-the-mill twin pregnancy, you'll probably be seen every other week, fortnightly, for most of that pregnancy. And those scans can take, between travel waiting, and actually having the scan and seeing whatever health professionals you need to see, they can take up to half a day or longer, I'm sure. But, it's not uncommon for them to take half a
Right.
day. So if you are having trouble balancing that, or, finding childcare for other children, or, having trouble with your employer, like, again, we can help with strategies for managing that. Um, You'll deliver early. I said earlier, mine were born at 37 weeks. That's pretty much considered term for twins and multiple, or for twins, I should say. Triplets are born earlier. And again, it depends a little bit on what kind of triplet pregnancy you've got, but usually I think 32 weeks is about what they consider term. So you're gonna have a NICU stay after that. So that is definitely something to consider. And for many kinds of twin pregnancy, you also have to deliver earlier. Some kinds of twin pregnancy, you can't deliver naturally. You have to have a C-section. That's particularly when the babies share a sac and a placenta, because it's very important that, when baby one is delivered, baby two isn't left without oxygen or nutrients. So yeah, it's just a very different experience. And I think for a lot of parents, it can be really confronting, and it just doesn't go with what they had envisioned this experience to look like. So that can be really jarring, I think, and that can also lead to anxiety, feelings of kind of not living up to expectations. This isn't what I planned. This isn't what I wanted. So we can help.
Of course, yeah. And it's so helpful to be prepared. Like you said, I mean, I wouldn't even have thought about I would have thought about extra time for appointments, but I wouldn't have thought that amount of time. So you're right, you've got to prepare for childcare, to inform your boss, your employer, your managers. So that's really, really helpful. What tips do you have for coping with twins once they're here?
Once they're born, it is hard. I think we have a lot of information about this in our Preparing for Twins course in particular. We're just about to launch a new version of that course. So if you're expecting, please do get in touch or keep an eye out for that. It really depends on the situation, but I think understanding what kit you really need, as opposed to, what you see on Instagram or what your sister has, or I think a lot of our families, they have this picture in their mind of the perfect nursery, with all the perfect decorations. And then they find they've got to squish two cots in and they need two changing setups and they need a big chair for feeding and all of these things. And suddenly it doesn't look so aesthetic. And, I think we have a list of kind of essential kit. So that's a really helpful list to check out. And it really does help our family save money because, of course, you're looking at double nappies, double clothes, double buggies, double car seats, double cots, double everything. Our families on average take over a 20,000 pound hit in the first year compared to a family that has two babies in succession. If you have other children, you might have to change your car, or if you're having triplets, you might have to change your car, you might have to change your house. Like it's a big life adjustment. So I think really looking at what you really, really essentially need rather than kind of what other families might kind of advocate for, is a very useful thing to have. Uh, just really, I think just learning as much as you can while you've got that time. Because for me, for example, um, I had mine and I feel like I'd just kind of gotten the hang of, getting them to sleep and feeding them and all of these different things. And then around kind of 4 months, the GP said, "Oh, are you thinking about switching to solids soon?" And I thought, "Oh my goodness, like, no,
I just got exhausted.
I've just got this part down and I've got to do that." So I wish I had gone back and kind of learned about the first year a bit more, as opposed to the first 6 weeks or the first 8 weeks. I think, pulling in help however you can and really taking it, not kind of being, a martyr and insisting on doing it all yourself, or kind of being hard on yourself that you can't do it all yourself. I think a lot of parents have anxiety about, letting other people hold the babies, letting other people put the babies to sleep, letting other people feed the babies. And I think kind of really grappling with that before the birth is helpful in terms of allowing for it to happen after, because you really can't do it all. And especially with triplets, there was some research done by our Australian counterpart, Amba, um, that said that to take care of triplets requires 29 hours in the day. So, obviously that's not possible. You
Mm,
do need help. I think also just really understanding, what support your health visitor will provide, what support your GP will provide, letting your health visitor know, for example, if you can let the service know in advance that you're having twins, they will allocate more time for appointments, or they're supposed to allocate more time for appointments, that sort of thing. Similarly with your GP, understanding what the vaccine schedule is, just the real basics, but just thinking it all through in advance, with those extra kind of time constraints and logistics constraints in mind. If you've got a local twin club, go visit before, because those can be a real lifeline if there's one in your area. And if you've been before, you kind of know where to park, or you know how to walk there. It feels a bit more comfortable when you're doing it, with the big double or
friendly
triple
face to
puppy.
greet you when you walk in the door.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you can never underestimate the power of support.
Absolutely.
Um, and even if you don't need it straight away, you might need it a little bit later down the line, or you can always take up those offers that people have given you, even if it's to help out with some meals and
Yeah,
things
oh,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, emptying the dishwasher, coming over and washing bottles, dropping off meals, things like that. But especially, I mean, I think feeding can be a real challenge for our families. And, there's a lot of pressure from various
Mm.
parts of society to feed in one way or to feed in another way. And in my experience, it was really a personal decision that I wasn't expecting to feel so strongly about. And so one of the things I suppose I did have very good support actually, and a lot of that was through Twins Trust. But just really kind of understanding what support is out there to help you feed the way you want to feed. Um, we are a no judgment organization. We think fed is best, and we will support you in anything you need on feeding. We have feeding drop-ins. We have a lot of feeding resources because it is just such a difficult issue for our families. So.
Yeah, well, feeding's so hard anyway. Especially if you've got to feed two.
Yeah.
That is really, really tough. So yeah, get all the support that there is and the drop-ins and the actual physical places that you can go to, or if the health visitor will come out and see you. That's so helpful. And knowing about tongue tie as well. Some babies suffer with tongue tie, finding out your local services that might be able to help.
Yeah.
um, there are all these organizations and bodies out there to help. So you've had your twins, and you might be considering another pregnancy further down the line once you start getting some sleep back. What are the chances of having multiples again?
It depends on which kind of multiples you've had, and also, of course, how you've had them. Were they naturally conceived? Were they, did you put two embryos back after a round of IVF? Again, with the kind of two eggs being ovulated and implanting at once kind of pregnancy, there is a risk that you will have another set of multiples in that way. I mean, there's always a risk, I suppose. We do have one of our staff team has two sets of identical twins, which is like 1 in 30 million. I think we did the maths once. So it does happen. But that particular circumstance isn't very common. Um, so yeah, I mean it's possible. I guess you just have to go into that understanding that that could be, something that life throws at you and decide if you're comfortable with that. But it's not hugely likely. I mean, you don't see lots of families with two sets of twins walking around. So
That is very true. That is very true. Well, thank you so much, Shauna. That has been really insightful, and I'm sure it's going to be really, really helpful. So, if anyone wants to support, if they want to find out some information, where's the best place for them to go?
think our website, twinstrust.org. Again, we have a helpline. The number for that and the email for that is on our website. And really, you can find access to all of our courses, all of our resources. Your local unit should be able to support you as well if you're expecting and you're registered with a unit. I think just an important thing to point out is that you are entitled to self-refer if you're not happy with the care you're getting locally. If there's another hospital you'd prefer to be seen at, that is something you can do. And often with, kind of twin and multiple pregnancies, people do prefer to be seen at, kind of larger units if that's an option. Not to say the smaller ones don't deliver great care, but, we do see more people being seen at some of the bigger units. So yeah.
Yes, if you think the babies need some NICU care,
Mhm.
then you might want to book into the hospital that's got maybe the larger NICU unit, or specializes in the particular condition that you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had a specific condition that needed any kind of in utero treatment, the unit would refer you to a unit that could perform that. But one thing I think, just for people that could be expecting a NICU stay, which is really any of our families, having access to a NICU with more beds is obviously better, because we do have families which occasionally might have two or more babies split up from one NICU to another, which is horrible. And we, have talked to, a lot of policymakers about ending this practice, but unfortunately, there are situations where there's just not a NICU bed and a baby needs a NICU bed, and it does happen. So bigger NICUs are better if you think that is something that you should plan for.
Yes, that's very helpful. That must be awful. So one parent has got to go to one hospital with one baby and the other to another. That's
Yeah, it's
awful.
a really, really sad situation. And I should say, I don't think any healthcare professional thinks it's a great situation either.
No,
Sometimes it's completely unavoidable, but it does happen, and it is really, really difficult. So yeah, if
something to be
you're,
aware of.
yeah, something to be aware of, absolutely.
Okay, well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've learnt so much.
Yeah.
And we wish Twins Trust all the best and a very prosperous 2025. And we will catch up with you very soon, Shauna.
Sounds great. I hope this was helpful for your listeners.
Thank you.
Have a great day.